of Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to back-to-back episodes of Surviving the Survivor. It is the podcast that promises to bring you the very best guests in all of true crime. It is not a tagline. It is our reality. We do it day in and day out. We've got a team that we put together, the COE. She's a glue, the chief of everything. You got Steve Cohen booking the best guests. Space Coast on the West Coast, who we are praying for tonight because he's in LA and the winds are supposed to pick up. And of course, the mods. Can't do it without the mods. But here we are. This is a case that I am absolutely befuddled by, if I may use that. I've never used that word in my life, but I think it's fitting here. This happened September 19th. A sheriff named Mickey Steins in Letcher County, Kentucky, part of Appalachia, rural part of Kentucky. He goes to lunch with the local judge, Kevin Mullins, who's 54 years old. Apparently they have a decent lunch. And then something comes up about the phone, something being on their phone. Apparently the sheriff calls a number from his phone and then from the judge's phone. And shortly thereafter, we're not going to show the video, and the COE is going to load in some elements. You see this unfold. This is a still shot. It's a fascinating still shot and a very sad one because this is literally the last moments of the judge's life. He's in his chamber, and Mickey Steins has a weapon, and he pumps 8 rounds into the judge. Someone pointed out that you can still smoke in this courthouse, and there is a cigarette in Kevin Mullins' right hand and a little bit of a mess on the desk. But, I mean, literally seconds after this, he starts firing rounds into the judge. He used to be the bailiff, from what I understand, for this judge. And again, we welcome Elizabeth Jones. She is the host of Hillbilly. She is a therapist in private practice in Greenville, South Carolina. He works with inmates and a class act, and very insightful. And then Daryl Cohen, a complete gentleman. Guy drove like an hour and a half in Georgia traffic to visit me and my mother when we were doing a book signing there. He said he would, and he showed up, a man of his word. So appreciate that. Daryl does criminal defense law. But Elizabeth, to you, do you live in Letcher County? What got you so involved to the point that this channel is now really thriving?
Well, it was kind of divine intervention, to be honest with you. I had my own kind of run-ins with the law in my early 20s. And I eventually found the right form of treatment for myself. And I decided to go back to school. And I graduated magna cum laude with my bachelor's in criminal justice. And then I got my master's degree in criminal justice. And I never was able to really break in those circles around here. So I kind of had to just give up on that and move on to a different industry. And I ended up losing my job about 2 weeks before this incident happened. And I thought, well, I'm going to focus on my YouTube channel. And 2 weeks later, Mickey went down there and did that, and the channel took off. And then here we are to talk about it with you today.
As I say, the rest is history. We love having you here. I love the accent, if I'm allowed to say that. By the way, I heard I did not end the last stream when I was telling Tim I had a race because Mother Nature was calling to the bathroom. Don't know what everybody heard, but eventually I'll get canceled. There's no doubt. But Elizabeth, since investigating this, what would you say is, I guess, the most important fact that you've learned?
The most important fact. Well, I personally think that this has a lot to do with the Ben Fields case, that the civil case that named Mickey in it. That's what I think. But none of us
Yeah.
really know yet.
Yeah. And by the way, Ben Fields was, for those who have not followed this case, he was a sheriff deputy underneath Sheriff Mickey Steins, the one who shot the judge. And he was accused and convicted of basically telling women who had these ankle monitors. There are two victims that came forward. One passed away, but essentially telling them that the only way they'd get out of that program is that they were having sex with the deputy sheriff. He got convicted. He spent like 0 time behind bars for some reason. So some people think it is related to this. But Daryl Cohen, always the man who brings the wisdom. The charges here: 1 count of murder of a public official. That is a death penalty eligible case. Steins, as I said, was Mullins' bailiff for 10 years. The thing that amazes me here, Daryl, you're a big media guy, is that the answer as to why is still unknown. Does that befuddle you? That's what I was getting at when I use that word. Oh, you're muted, Daryl. We like hearing your voice. Hold on a sec, Daryl. Let me help you out. Oh, there
All
you
right,
go.
now you got me back. Joel, I completely agree with you. I am also befuddled, and that's not a word that I often use, but it's confusing to me because we saw what happened on video. And obviously, the judge had no defense. The judge had no offensive weapon. All he tried to do was hide. But why Mickey did it, I don't know. But I think unless he comes up with a great, and I mean a great excuse, reason, story, then he could see the death penalty. But because of who he is, I don't think that will happen. I think we're looking at a life in prison situation.
Really? That's interesting. I thought maybe, I mean, it depends what the motive is here. And I don't want to float rumors, but it's all over the place. And I think we all know that one of the things being floated out there, which we're going to ask Elizabeth about from Hillbilly Crime. By the way, you should be following Hillbilly Crime, if not for anything, for the name. As soon as you get your Hillbilly Crime hats, Elizabeth, I want one for sure. And I just completely forgot where I was going. So I'm going to pick up with Roger Rhodes. I digress so much I lose my own train of thought. Dr. Roger Rhodes, we're going to watch some videos here in a few minutes. There's body cam footage of Sheriff Steins acting very paranoid. Now, the story is that he goes to lunch with the judge. There are other people at the lunch. Everything seems pretty cordial. And then afterwards, it kind of takes a turn where this need to see the phone is presented to the judge. He looks at the judge's phone. He calls apparently from his phone and also the judge's phone. And then he simply snaps. You know, my dad, who is a psychiatrist, may he rest in peace, told me there's no such thing as a nervous breakdown. I used to say to him, I think I'm having a nervous breakdown. He said, there's no such thing. You're not having a nervous breakdown. You can control things. What is your best guess here? Was this like a moment of paranoia? I don't know what to make of it. We'll watch the video. It's weird, but what are your thoughts off the top?
Well, in this situation, you've got to look at, wait a minute, what was the payoff for the procedure? Okay, what kind of payoff do you get if you kill somebody and you don't have to? Then you are the only one that can create the narrative. That the shooter is now able to create the narrative, and there's where befuddlement comes. Right now, I don't hear any narrative. But I guarantee you there's a narrative that this guy has in which the judge deserved it and he dealt it out. And so there's where his mind's running, and we're just waiting to hear his quote unquote version of the truth.
Yeah. So let's just attack the elephant in the room. And Elizabeth, obviously, we'll need your help with that. So, again, Sheriff Steins was Judge Mullins' bailiff for 10 years. You get this, lack of a better phrase, a sex scam. We just lost Daryl. He'll pop back on. There he is. He got a call, I think. But, they've by all accounts, they seem to be getting along. But then there's this rumor that got floated out there because, for all intents and purposes, this was a kind of a sex scandal and a sex assault and the R word from the sheriff's deputy. But then you hear that potentially Sheriff Mickey Steins, that his own daughter, who's 17, people have said that she could be involved. Now it's really kind of a slippery slope because I don't want to, I don't want to support any rumor or innuendo, but it's become a part of this story. Have you researched into this? Do you have any information on any possible involvement from the judge with the sheriff's 17-year-old daughter? Elizabeth, that's for you.
Me? Well, honestly, right after this happened, that rumor was the very first one to go around. And from my understanding, the family has come out and said that that's not true. So, I don't really know if it's just a red herring in this case. But from what I understand, the family, Mickey's wife and daughter, have come out and said that there was no relationship or abuse from the judge.
I'm sorry, who came out and said that?
Mickey's wife and daughter.
Mickey's wife and daughter. And by the way, do we know how they're doing? They've got to be in a state of shock.
Well, I'm not real close with either of the families. I knew Mickey and I knew Kevin in a professional sense and a community sense. Our kids all go to the same schools, our kids play ball, we're a very small community. So you really, whenever you need to call a police, usually it was Mickey that people called. But I've not spoken with them personally. I don't really know anything other than just one of their family members put up a GoFundMe account right after this happened. And I thought it was very telling that most of the support community support was behind Mickey and his family, more so than the judge.
Why do you think that is? I've got a bazillion questions for you, but why do you think the support was more for the sheriff's family than the judge?
Well, I really can't honestly tell you. Mickey was a family man, and he was very well known and well thought of around here. Right after this happened, I was really, really surprised at how many people didn't care what the reason was. Social media was just flooded with opinions, and they were throwing their full support. The majority of the comments I saw, they were throwing their full support behind Mickey. If he did this, then he had to have a good reason for doing it. So I don't, we're just waiting. You're muted.
I said, I don't know. By the way, someone told me that we should get a lip reader. I thought this was an amazing idea to figure out what they're saying to each other in that room. That's actually an interesting idea, which we might have to do. But I was saying that my friend Gigi McKelvey of Pretty Lies and Alibis, she's got that Southern drawl. And I was saying that the two of you teamed up for a podcast I would listen to every night because look at this. Even Ned Smith says it. Love that accent, warms the heart. Another guy with a sort of a Southern accent mixed with like a Bronx accent is Daryl Cohen. Daryl Cohen. So a big piece of this story is a woman named Sabrina Atkins. There was a deposition that occurred 3 days before this crime where the sheriff shoots the judge. So 3 days before this, there's this deposition where Mickey Steins, the sheriff, is called. and it relates to this whole sheriff deputy essaying these women. And one of the witnesses who came forward is a woman named Sabrina Atkins. It's confusing, I know, but she told her attorney, who was on our show, a guy named Ned Pillersdorf, who's been an attorney in Letcher County for a very long time, very successful attorney. She basically said she saw the judge involved in some of this activity. Am I correct about that, Elizabeth?
She said that she saw part of a video where she saw Judge Mullins's face.
Daryl, I don't know that I even have a legal question here, but I guess from your perspective, this deposition happens 3 days before. Could a deposition be so heated that it triggers, in your opinion, the sheriff? And it's not the sheriff who's being accused of anything. It's his underling. It's his deputy. So is there anything in a deposition that could have stressed this sheriff out so much that he turned to killing the judge?
As I see it, Joel, absolutely. But that would happen instantaneously. I don't think he would have time to think about it for several days and stew on it and get more and more upset, and to the point where he would kill someone that he knew. But then also Mickey has likability, and that to me is very important, which is why I mentioned earlier, I don't see him getting the death penalty because of his likability.
Yeah. So Roger Rhodes, let me just ask you this. What the hell is going on here? I mean, this is a guy who gets deposed, right? His deputy is accused of these horrific crimes. The main witness, this woman, Sabrina Atkins, claims that she saw part of a video where this judge is on there. I mean, in my mind's eye, for him to have snapped like this, it would have to potentially involve a family member. But we're hearing that that's not the case. What do you think happened here? That's the question that no one can answer.
Well, I think it was calculated. I think he was aware that of his likability. You know, how likable is he, and how unlike it was the judge. And you know, there was probably something that came up, and that's where we're all bumfuddled by what came up, where he decided the only way out was to kill this man. There's the break in the thing, you know, because listen to the feedback of the emails after it happened. They were pro the sheriff and anti the judge. I think that tells you about the person, the community personality of the two people. Okay, the sheriff was a good old boy, and the judge was probably, you know, an up and coming. And boy, so the narrative is he got what was coming to him, and somebody had to give it to him, and it was this sheriff who did it.
Great question here, by the way.
Specific.
That was his comeuppance, if I may use that word. Neely here, question for Elizabeth, Hillbilly Crime. Is there outrage in the community? I've got questions for you, Elizabeth. Is there outrage in the community over this very, I mean, he was sentenced to like 6 years, but he served how much time? Next to none.
6 months. This is where I greatly differ from Ned. I had to hire Ned myself for a situation down in Letcher County. So he was my attorney at one time. And he is a very good attorney. He did his job. I was grateful for him. But yes, so what I found out after this is that the jailer himself allegedly had a meeting and told all of the employees down there at the jail that while Ben was to serve his 6 months there, his wife was also a sergeant who worked in the jail. And so they bought him, allegedly, they bought him a big screen TV, went out and bought him a brand new mattress, said that if he didn't want the door locked, then they weren't to lock the door. If his wife wanted to go in there, allegedly, and hang out and spend time with him, she could do it as much as she wanted. So apparently, and this came from a former jail employee who worked there at that time.
COE, I'm sorry, COE, I know you're multitasking, but if you can put a couple more of those in, I really want to get Roger's take and Daryl's take on a couple of the other. There's one where he's driving. Without further ado, let me play this. So Roger, Daryl, and Hillbilly knows this. Am I allowed to call you Hillbilly, or does that have to be a listener every time?
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Again, first Hillbilly crime hat. I need it sent to me. I will. I'll pay for shipping.
You got it.
I'll pay for the product. Here's some body cam footage of the sheriff, Dr. Roger Rhodes. You're the therapist among us. Listen to his tone and what he's saying. It's a very paranoid tone. Here we go.
Carbon monoxide in here. Oh, come on now. Come on. I can't say it like this.
Slide sideways.
I can't. Come on now. Be fair to me.
We're being good to you, brother. You can stick your leg up in there.
Come on now, guys. Please don't do this to me. Please don't do this to me. Please.
You want to scoot on over a little bit to the left?
Come on now.
Try to scoot on over a little bit more. That way we don't hit you. Can you go any bit farther? That's what will hit you with the door. Put your knee in there, my friend.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Bates. Hey, Bates. Can we loosen this up a little or give the window down?
I'm sorry.
Can we loosen this up a little? Be fair to me, man.
I got some air. I'll crack the window for you, but I can turn the air on back here. Okay?
Yeah. Be fair to me now.
I promise, Matthew. I promise.
God, please.
I promise. I'll tell you.
It's hot back here, man. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
There you go. Roger Rhodes. I mean, I know you can't diagnose people, especially from a body cam footage, but diagnose him for us. I mean, he sounds like number one, he's out of breath. He keeps saying, over and over, don't do this to me, or be careful to whatever extent. He just seemed like he was overly concerned that some kind of harm was going to be done to him. To me, and I'm no therapist, it sounds like he was paranoid. At one point, we'll watch another body cam video in a second, even says, are you guys taking me into the woods to, basically assuming that he was going to get killed by these deputies. What's happening here?
Okay. He's exhibiting the power of victimhood. Play the victim, oh, poor me, to get people to sympathize with him and to make him, again, viewed as the good guy. That is at the cornerstone of this. And it's what you're seeing more of is an area of narcissism and a good study of how to get people's sympathy going your way. That's what I heard in all that was he had shown that, oh, poor me. Wait a minute. He knew exactly. I bet he'd seen 100 of other videos of people and who have been thought of as improperly arrested, and how did they talk? And that's the kind of verbiage you hear in his interaction. The verbiage of victimhood, the power of victimhood.
Very interesting. Whenever I whine to Carmela, by the way, my beloved mother, she's like, stop being a victim. So you put it right in context there. Dr. Raj, before Daryl said something interesting. He said that this deposition was 3 days earlier, and that if he was going to snap, he would have snapped right then and there. He wouldn't have waited 3 days. Do you agree with that?
Yes. No, he didn't snap. Wait a minute. No snapping. Okay. Let's start with this. No snapping. Okay. This was a well-planned, well-thought-out, well-arranged execution in which he thought he could control the narrative and be the good guy and have reasons that he believed the audience, the community out there, would side with him, and he would be the 6-year, 6-month guy, only in a deeper case.
Daryl, to you, the criminal defense attorney, we had Sabrina Atkins, who's potentially like a key witness in this case. He was on the show, and he said that during this deposition that he was giving, or taking, I should say, from Sheriff Mickey Steins, that Steins was, and I quote here, tense and unfriendly. Sabrina Atkins, who is this witness, her direct quote in the deposition, speaking of the judge now, he does have some videotapes of some stuff in the judge's chambers, just with girls, sexual, and stuff. She had spoken publicly about her claims of former Deputy Sheriff Ben Fields using his position of power to pressure her and other women to have sex in exchange for favorable treatment. I guess my question to you, again, just going back to this deposition, I mean, Ned Pillersdorf, from what I can gather, he's been doing this for like 40 years. He knows what he's doing. Maybe he's not the most well-liked guy, especially with law enforcement, because he's criminal defense and they're supposed to be like the police, the keepers of, making sure law enforcement is on the straight and narrow. But I mean, have you been in a situation, in a deposition where someone is at the point of wanting to do harm to someone else because they're so worked up?
Joel, I've been around that, but the reality is once you have an opportunity to calm down, think about it, take several deep breaths, whether that's over a period of seconds, minutes, days, hours, months, you normally will calm down. So this had to be, in my view, something that he planned based upon whatever it was based upon, but he planned it. And he made sure that, as you guys have pointed out, he controlled the narrative,
Yes.
but he didn't because the video hurts him.
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Raj, following up there, and then I'm getting back to Hillbilly, but I guess if it was so planned out, why did it seem completely cordial at lunch, and then he just kind of quietly walks into the chamber, and that's when he shoots him? I mean, why didn't he shoot him at lunch?
Okay, here's two people on film, so you get two perspectives. But if you kill one of them, how many perspectives do you get? Okay, so he then says the sheriff is the keeper of quote unquote the truth. Okay, so it's like a play. Certain people go this way, certain people go that way. This is how it unfolds. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing a play by the sheriff in which he's going to tell us what he was thinking to do what he did. And the story will be, why was I justified in doing this? That's what we're going to hear. There's going to be something he's going to bring out that forced him, he will say, to do what he did.
Yeah, that's definitely
innocent.
That's definitely coming. And I'm curious. I'll follow up with Daryl in a moment because Daryl thinks we're looking at a life sentence here. For some reason, I think it's going to be much lighter. I don't know why, but Hillbilly, I'm coming to you with a flood of questions right now. So Daryl and Raj, hang tight for a few. But Cakespoo, I'll be honest, I don't know if that's the Australian or New Zealand flag, but I know you're in one of them, and I apologize. I'm a dumb American. I'm embarrassed. I will go home and study the difference between a New Zealand and an Aussie flag. But anyway, Hillbilly, anyone know if the daughter was in trouble with the law? It's an interesting question. And again, I don't want to perpetuate this rumor, but I mean, you got to ask these questions. So any word about that, that would have put the sheriff's daughter perhaps in contact somehow with either the deputies or the judge himself?
No, she wasn't in trouble with the law. She was the golden child. She is a Rogers Scholar. She's a senior in high school. She's very smart. She's very beautiful. And she's, she's got a really good future ahead of her. um, or at least she did before this happened. So, but I'm sure she still will. But no, I don't think she had any trouble with the law. The only thing that I've heard is that she might have had an internship of some kind, maybe at the courthouse, but I haven't confirmed that with anybody. But I've heard several people say that she had some kind of an internship somewhere. But so that could be. But this is my thing. Mickey was a very active father, and I just don't see Mickey putting his daughter in a position to where, in a dangerous position where she would be in a situation. You know what I mean? I just don't see Mickey doing that.
Raj, hop in there.
We've got to ask ourselves today, who is the holder of the truth? Okay, I'm here. I love Hillbilly saying, well, here is the truth as I know it. Yeah. But there's something in me that says, yeah, that's the outer truth. But the sheriff owns what he will say is the real truth. Did this really happen to her? No, in real terms. But wait a minute. What happens if he believed it was the truth?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's interesting. Daryl.
Sudden, he's retaliating to abuse that he believed was true. Or you guys didn't really know him like I knew him. And if you knew him like I knew him, you would execute him.
That's a fascinating point, and I agree with you. And again, I am befuddled that we don't know the why. This happened on September 19th. It's January 14th today. October, November, December. I have to use my fingers. That's 4 months. Hillbilly, go ahead.
Well, it's something that really struck me was if something happened, right, that was so egregious that the judge deserved this. Well, with Mickey's position and with all of his information and just his position, he could have, I mean, I'm not condoning this or anything. He could have set something up away from the courthouse. He could have set up a different scenario, a different situation where he could have done this and gotten away with it. And he didn't. He went into that judge's chambers knowing that camera was there, and he did what he did on camera.
Yeah.
And then,
Dr. Raj, I'm sorry. Well, Dr. Raj, let me ask you a quick question because I know you have a thought there, but you often hear, and Daryl say this, stabbings are very personal. This seemed very personal, like close quarters. And to Hillbilly's point, he had the power to do it in a much, less visible fashion, and we're not condoning
Wait a minute. I remember doing it becomes more of a problem the more people you include. But if it's just me and just a gun and just a moment, I'm in total control of the moment, of the situation. See, it's not about asking why. We should be asking what is really moving this moment. What is going on that moves this moment with this sheriff? That's going to be the big moment.
Daryl?
This is not real reality. It's Mickey's reality. And all of us can look at something that looks exactly the same, but we'll describe it in a different way. In my view, he thought that he knew exactly what was going on, and what reality said, what video said, had nothing to do with his personal reality.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I totally agree.
I mean, that's a fantastic point. But then, Raj, that brings me back, and then I'm getting back to Hillbilly. But Raj, that brings me back to like the psychology of this. you know, again, you always hear people are having quote unquote mental breakdowns, quote unquote snap. You said there's no such thing as snapping. I mean, what is happening psychologically in his reality? If assuming that doesn't involve his daughter, I mean, it would have to be something really egregious or just a mental health thing, like issue.
But
You know?
have you ever noticed, Joel? Everybody has a great excuse for a crappy decision.
Mhm.
The crappier the decision, the greatest. Oh my goodness, it's going to be elaborate, you know. And I think at the core of this, what we're going to find out is retribution is the driving force in what happened.
There you go.
Payback, because that's the society in which this happened. You know, if you do to me, okay, I'm doing to you, but I'm double doing you.
Yeah. By the way,
don't get mad, get even. And
Amen.
That's what he was doing, I think, in his own mind.
Yeah, I agree. See, I'm like a Kentucky. I'm an Okie. And buddy, let me tell you, you mess with an Okie, then you're ready to get messed back. That's how it plays.
Hey, Raj, are there hillbillies in Oklahoma? Forgive my ignorance.
Man. Wait a minute. Where do you think Oklahomans came from? It's Indian country. If you were a white person, you either came from Tennessee or Kentucky or both.
Raj, what is the precise definition? What is the precise definition of a hillbilly, Raj? Like, what makes someone a hillbilly?
It's not a shovel, it's a damn spade. That's a hillbilly.
Hillbilly crime. What makes a hillbilly a hillbilly? And is it offensive if I call someone a hillbilly? I feel like that's offensive.
I think that some people get offended by stuff like that, but
yeah, what do people who are hillbillies say about those people who get offended? They use the middle finger. They don't care.
Yeah. Daryl, back to you. You said a life sentence. I just want to circle back to that. Why do you think the penalty here is going to be as harsh as that?
Well, what I was really suggesting is it won't be a death sentence. It may be lesser than life, but he will not get the death penalty because of his likability. As Elizabeth pointed out, somebody needs law enforcement. Who do they call? They called him. They didn't call 911. They called him. So he is their law enforcement. And I think that because of that, and he will come up with some convoluted why he did what he did because he was forced to do it. He didn't want to do it. He had to do it. Had to get even because that's the way it is. But I think he will definitely not get anything worse than life. So if I implied that I thought he'd get life, I'm sorry. I was comparing that to the death sentence, and I don't see there's any chance of that.
That's interesting. So for my dog Rex, this is a great point. And then I'm getting back to hillbilly here. Steins was associated directly with the judge for 10 plus years. He was his bailiff, as I understand it. Why wouldn't Steins share the daughter's phone number for personal or emergency purposes? I mean, that's definitely possible. And then you've got this comment from South Australia where it's boiling hot. I think the judge was involved big time with the SA, and the sheriff and deputy were going down for this, and the judge was getting away with it, and the sheriff lost it and shot him. And that would be Dr. Raj's retribution. Hillbilly, I got to ask you, I mean, this makes a lot of sense, what Helen is saying. Do you buy it?
Well, as much as I hate to admit this, there have been rumors about the judge's chambers in that courthouse for years and years and years. But the rumors didn't say who was in the chambers, just about the chambers. So, you know, there have been little whispers around about that stuff. But this is where I also kind of, when you were interviewing Ned the other night, he said that he was praising the Kentucky Attorney General's office for indicting Ben Fields and all that. I feel completely different than he does about that. It's kind of the same way I feel about patting men or women on the back who pay their child support. Why are you going to pat them on the back for them doing what they're supposed to be doing in the first place? Ben Fields should have been investigated and taken to trial for what he was doing. I don't want to praise the Attorney General's office for doing the job that they were supposed to do. You know what I mean? And I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I think I question why when Sabrina in her interviews with the Attorney General, when Sabrina said that there were higher ups and more people involved in this, in her interviews, she also said that the way that she found out about with Ben and house arrest was rumors prior to her. So that means there were previous victims before her. So I think there's a whole lot more people involved in all of this. And my question is, where is the investigation into that? Where was the investigation into that? It looks to me like Ben Fields took the plea bargain, and once they got him convicted, they just backed off of everybody else.
Yeah, by the way, there was definitely another victim. Her name is Jennifer Hill. She's since passed away, but she joined this lawsuit that Ned Pillersdorf was representing these two clients. Brianna's World, I assume she lives in and around Letcher County. Mickey is a good man, and he's a family man. I believe they were going through Mickey's daughter to threaten Mickey, and then followed that up by Mullins. And I don't want to step on the gravestone of a dead man, but Mullins is a snake, and everyone knew it. Hillbilly, I've been meaning to ask this question since the first minute of the show, but you called him Mickey and Kevin, so you know these guys well. I mean,
well, to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever heard anybody refer to Mickey as Sheriff Steins.
Really? So
we're very informal here, so I was kind of surprised that you were surprised.
Yeah. No, well, tell me,
Listen to that, Joel. It's personal. We're not talking about metro, wherever this is. Okay. Yeah. We're talking about country people dealing in country ways with country subjects. And everybody knew everybody else's business before this all happened. Okay. And so there was plenty of stuff. If not there, it was put in there to create the sheriff as victim. That is the ongoing narrative here. Is here's a good guy who would not have done something if he wasn't compelled to do it.
Yeah.
And they're gonna create whatever is a believable narrative to get him a lighter sentence.
Yeah. So I still haven't got my question out. Hillbilly, I'm gonna come back to you in 1 second, but for my dog Rex, this is a good point, Daryl. Sabrina is hearsay, zero evidence. It is true. It was in a deposition. Unless she has video, she just says that she saw video. How would that stand up in a court of law if she's state's witness here?
It's fairly easy, Joel. You and I, all of us know that you can call a witness, he or she can testify, and immediately the other side objects, and you say, withdraw the question. But you can't withdraw it from the minds of the jury. So I think it would stand up in terms of the jury would hear it, whether or not the presiding judge would allow it to stay in as another story. But once heard, it doesn't go away. It just doesn't. It's the way it works.
Yeah.
And I've done that many times.
So, Elizabeth, to you from Lisa Polina here. This is another fact that is, I don't know if it's a fact, but this is something else that's been reported. So I don't know if it is a fact, but was Mickey kicked out of the marital home the night before the shooting? Apparently his wife, according to reports, did kick him out, got into some sort of argument. Have we found out if that is true or not?
Well, I heard that report too from News Nation. And then last night, I actually spoke with somebody who said that he had been staying at his aunt's for a couple days before this happened. So, and that's a pretty good source where I got that from. So,
So you can now take it and you're lighting a fuse and it's a long, long fuse. And maybe that fuse just kept going and going and then kaboom in the chambers.
I thought it was very telling too that his lawyer said that they were expecting a full acquittal.
Well, they're going to say that. No lawyer who's representing a person charged with a crime, especially one of murder, is going to say, we're going to do our best, but whatever happens, happens. They're going to just say, my client is completely innocent. I don't care what your eyes see. I don't care what your ears hear. He or she is innocent. And we're going to get an acquittal because you're also working on the jury before they're ever impaneled. You're working on the court of public opinion.
Daryl, we're starting to lose your audio a little, so I'm gonna see if it repairs itself. But Gritty Gret here, great question. So he's texting during lunch. Do we know who Mickey Steins is texting? I assume we still don't know. Hillbilly, I got questions for you. So this is the question I wanted to ask, at the beginning of the show. You call him Mickey, you call him Kevin. Let's start with Mickey. Paint a picture of him. I mean, what kind of guy is he? Laid back, low key. By the way, I wanted to play more sound, but it appears the COE's laptop has died on her end. Suddenly, everything disappeared. So there goes the sound with it, meaning the sound bites. But Hillbilly, to you, paint the picture of Mickey Steins. I mean, you said he's a family man, but like, if you bump into him on the street, what would your conversation be like?
Well, when I first met Mickey, he was the bailiff down there at the courthouse. And, he pretty much just ran, it was a people business. When you have court every day, you kind of just run the people in the courtroom and in and out of the courtroom, I mean. But I had never heard anything about him going outside of his marriage or anything like that. He was really a devoted family man, at least from the outside looking in. He was. He was pretty laid back. He would talk to anybody. He was really involved in taking food boxes around to people. Especially right before this all happened, they had some kind of a program where they were taking food boxes around all over the county. When he ran for sheriff, they went out and bought a whole big bunch of red T-shirts, said Steins for sheriff, and they gave them away to people, and you couldn't go anywhere without seeing somebody wearing one of them T-shirts. Yeah. And he was a very, I'll give you another little nugget of information. One of the big things around here is substance abuse. Now, it used to be the opioid crisis that hit here that decimated the area. But then whenever the pain medication became too hard to get, they started moving towards the methamphetamine. And that has really taken over this area. It's not the same stuff that they used 30 years ago. This stuff that they're doing now, it's like once they start doing it, even if they stop, the damage is already done to their minds. They have this paranoid psychosis that comes with it. And when I first heard that this had happened, we went straight down to Whitesburg, and I saw the jailer outside, or the former jailer, and I said, are they taking him to the hospital to get a tox screen? That was the first thing I thought of. He could have had an accidental exposure. He could have had anything. Would they take him and have him tested? And they said no, they were taking him straight to the jail. Well, I've talked to several different people around here recently, and they've all kind of told me that as soon as they saw Mickey and they heard him, that's exactly what they thought too, that was some kind of a rug-induced psychosis. But
Wow.
as soon as I said that, I was attacked from every end that Mickey hated drugs. He would never touch one. He would never touch them. So, but that what you see in him being so paranoid and just the kind of irrational things that he was saying, that's what we see a lot of with methamphetamine use around here. So
that's fascinating. I'm going to ask Roger about double lives in a second, because people are not always who you think they are. But by the way, Allison Wyatt, I want to get to this comment, so I'm not bringing it up. But Allison Wyatt says Mickey was always friendly and helpful. I got stuck on an icy hill last winter. He pushed me down the hill to keep me out of ditch. I would love to hear from people from Letcher County. Please email me, survivingthesurvivor@gmail. I'd be very interested in doing a show with citizens of Letcher County. But squeaky wheel here to Daryl. This case is so bizarre. We know who did it. We know where he did it. We know how he did it. But yet why he did it is some closely guarded secret. Why is that? Why is motive such a big deal? I mean, Daryl, motive doesn't have to be proven in a criminal case, correct? But it's important here, I think.
It's implied, but here it makes all of the difference. Why did Mickey go off the rails? Why did he do what he did? Was it sudden at lunch or was it from before, 2 or 3 days before? More you know, the better off Mickey is, probably. But it's the likability factor. Everybody has mentioned the likability. He gave out lunches. He did this. Red T-shirts. I assume not from Trump, but from Mickey. All of that tells me one thing. It tells me that even though video-wise, it's very obvious as to what he did, how he did it, it's not the why, and the why is what they're going to use, in my view, to try and mitigate it, or to say it's justifiable homicide, which they could say. The jury buy it. They like it. Jury nullification.
Yeah, there you go. Daryl, I absolutely love you, but I don't love your audio. I'm going to have to cut you loose. It's the top of the hour.
Okay.
I see you drinking a glass of wine, and I want you to enjoy your evening. But the audio's, I'm going to get yelled at for it. So I fear my wife in Space Coast more than I fear you, no offense. So I'm going to dip you out, but I'm going to thank you immensely for joining us.
You guys take care. Enjoyed it very much. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Daryl. So Raj, in one of the body cams released on Mickey's trip to the jail, he seemed very paranoid. What type of situation? I mean, what Elizabeth just said is a fascinating, idea. I mean, maybe he was doing drugs. I mean, this brings us to a whole other issue.
Why are you not conveying the idea of lacing? I mean, there's all kinds of ways to deliver drugs into people's system. And it's very easy for them to say, hey, they laced the lunch. He was fine. He went into lunch. They laced the drugs. He did this drug-induced. I mean, I love that. That's, CSI level.
I mean, Raj, the bigger question here is people live double lives. Like, you could be the sheriff. I mean, look at the BTK serial killer. He was the president of the church. Right. He was an animal control officer and a serial killer by night. We don't know the full extent of, Mickey Stein's person, who he really was. I mean, it is look, I'm not trying to besmirch this guy. I'm just saying, like, we don't know what was really going on. So maybe this is
right. You never do. And do people live different lives? Yes. are people savvy enough, even in the backcountry, to create a narrative to confuse us with the facts? Yes.
Yeah.
You know, but what you're seeing here is a real diversion from everyday life in a small community where people knew you by name, not by title.
Yeah.
So it lowers the ability to hide. You know, how many people would know what was the status of your marriage and where you slept so close to an incident? Man, that's tight, man. That's knowing your neighbor a whole lot. So we have to take that in consideration. But the drug thing and the proliferation of drugs in that area is a viable idea.
You know what? I hadn't even thought of that. Hillbilly, I'm going to get to you, but let me just read. Let me get to this question and your thought. But does Mickey have close friendships? Anything beyond family relationships? If you want to answer that, and first your thought.
Oh yeah, he's got lots of friendships and relationships. Yeah. He's from here. You know, he's part of the fabric of this community. But what I think is also a factor here is, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to follow the evidence. Well, we're also supposed to follow the money, the money, the property, the drugs that were being confiscated in just off of regular traffic stops, not just from raids or busts, just from regular traffic stops. One of the things that a lot of the departments around here love to do was, every time they would get a big cache of something, they would lay it all out on the hood of the police car, take a picture of it, and put it up on Facebook and tell how many grams, how many this, how much that, and they like to show it off. Well, if you look at enough of them pictures, you get a pretty good idea of how much money was going through the forfeiture funds. And so when I started looking into how forfeiture funding is used, how it's granted, wow, it just blowed me away that I think it said 11% of departments in Kentucky even report at all. So there's you're talking about millions of dollars here. And I think that's a big factor. I think money is going to be at the heart of all of this.
Wow. That I'm going to have some follow-up questions on, I believe. Tim Collins, email me, survivingthesurvivor at gmail.com. Mickey assisted me when an individual tried doing me real dirty. I mean, Raj, just in this chat, I haven't seen a positive comment about Judge Mullins, but many about Sheriff Steins. What is the deal? I mean,
well, that plays well into the drug theory. And not only are you talking about money, let's talk about power and influence. How important is power and influence in that area? Okay, because there's some things money can't buy. But if you've got power and money helps you keep it, oh, what are you willing to do? Who are you willing to take down? And if he there it again, yes, he's a victim. He was obstructing the flow of narcotics, and this was what they were asking him to do to stay in good graces. See, there's another idea.
Yeah.
And you also have
drugs keep coming back. Go ahead.
You also have the other part of this where Judge Mullins, his courtroom was used to send a whole lot of people to rehab. Well, the FBI came in and has announced an investigation into the rehab that Letcher County uses the most. So they've had a big investigation, FBI investigation into Medicaid fraud And then you think about what Ned said on your show the other night. Ned said, think about how 40 years ago you didn't see women being arrested and charged with all of these drug charges. Now, 90, well, I forget the percentage he used, but it was something, to me, it sounded like he was like 95% of them are women now, you know, that are being charged. And then when you look at how Letcher County was doing their house arrest program, and then you got to think Benfield's sister is over the drug court program in the circuit court upstairs. His brother-in-law was a member of law enforcement.
Wow.
And it was his uncle. It was his uncle who was the old man that Ned said he pimped her out to. That was Ben's uncle, who was also a fire chief at Kings Creek Fire Department.
How do you say social incest better than what you just did?
Yeah,
There
that's
you
it.
go.
I mean, this is, I mean, it's interesting to me because I grew up basically outside of New York City. I mean, this is a completely different world. Can't remember the name of the movie. I think Michael Keaton was in it. It's about the proliferation of opioid use in Appalachia, and it was so sad, including, I think it was Michael Keaton, and he gets addicted to drugs. But I mean, I mean, how bad is the drug problem there, Elizabeth? Is it like, I mean, everywhere you go? Is it, I mean, how serious? I mean, it sounded like it had gotten better, but now it seems like not much different than it was.
Well, the opioid crisis decimated my generation. I just turned 48, so I'm getting old. But my generation was decimated by it was just decimated by the opioids. People, they either ended up dead or in prison. And then you had a whole bunch of people who had legitimate pain who could no longer get pain medication because of the opioid crisis with the addiction. And so a whole lot of people just, you know, it's supply and demand. If you have a whole lot of people who are drug addicts and you take their drugs away from them, well, some people ended up, you know, abstinence is not a very successful form of treatment, but you had a whole lot of doctors, a whole lot of people trying to be counselors coming into this area, telling us all that we had to be abstinent. Medically assisted treatment had such a bad reputation, but it was saving lives. It was making people functional. It was letting people raise their kids. It was helping them, you know, wash their dishes and clean their house every day. But, you know, it's really, then you had this other big population of people who ended up going to the methamphetamine. So you've got people like me who found treatment and was able to successfully do that transition. But then you've got a whole lot of other people. And you got to remember, with addiction or recovery, when it's okay to send them to a 30-day rehab, but whenever it's time for them to leave, they got to go right back home to the same environment that they left. And so you usually got your uncle or your cousin or your sister that's using in the same house, or, you know, it's hard for people without a good support system and a support network. Controlled environments work, but when they are outside of that controlled environment, it just falls all to pieces. So it's a really big problem here.
Well, Elizabeth, I'm glad that you got yourself out of that horrible situation. I mean, it sounds like an obvious kind of nightmare situation to be in.
What it is, Joe. It's a miracle.
Yeah, it is a
15
miracle.
years now.
Good for you. Yeah, because that is hard. They're especially hard to get off of here. But Lee T, questions now. I'm gonna go to the bottom, and you could put in, instead of triple Q, triple H, honoring hillbillies everywhere. Put in a triple H, and I will ask questions for the last bunch of minutes to Elizabeth, who is of Hillbilly Crime. That is her YouTube channel. But Elizabeth, do you know anything about Mickey's attorneys? Let's start there.
They are supposed to be personal injury lawyers, is their bread and butter, from what I understand. But they are supposed to be very good attorneys. They're a husband and wife team, and I've not heard anything bad about them. Everybody said that they were really good lawyers. So
yeah, Brianna's World. I'm so proud of Elizabeth. She's doing a wonderful job and is very good at talking, and I enjoy her channel so much. Do you guys know each other? Do you know Brianna?
she's on my she always comes to my show.
Oh, awesome. There you go.
There
You go. At least one of us has some fans out there watching us. That's good.
Hey, I made Turtle Island.
Elizabeth, so I asked you about Sheriff Mickey Steins, but you mentioned Kevin, the judge, Mullins by his first name too. Give me the picture of Kevin Mullins. You bump into him on the street. What's he like? Is he going to ask you how your day is? Is he going to be talkative? Is he going to, shy away from you? What kind of person was he?
I never had any bad experiences with Judge Mullins myself. You would see him at the gas. I normally saw him at the gas station late at night. He would always be down there getting snacks for his daughter's lunch boxes the next morning. I had a situation here in Letcher County where people abused their power just to show me who was boss. And I had let my child ride his bicycle down to the mouth of the holler. And instead of coming right home, he ended up going to my neighbor's house. Well, I couldn't find him. Whenever I went out to look for him, I couldn't find him. And the more people that you ask, have you seen my child, the more people start looking for your child. And the next thing you know, every cop in Letcher County was there. Social workers was there. He was right next door to our house, and we just hadn't found him yet. Well, it was really, really bad. They ended up, and that was it. That was it. I just let him ride his bicycle down to the fire department to ask the fire chief a question, and then he didn't come home like he was supposed to. Well, we ended up finding him about an hour later, but by the time we had found him, they had attacked me, accused me of everything that you could think of. I didn't get arrested that night, but I did get indicted later on because I would not voluntarily sign and let social workers open a case on me because they didn't have enough to substantiate opening a case. So they tried to get me to voluntarily sign and let them open one. And that was when I hired Ned. I went and found Ned and I said, I need your help. He was like, I'm trying to figure out why you're even here in my office. This is not going to be criminal. This is not, you're not going to need an attorney. Oh, yeah, I did. Because the only way that they could get me was they indicted me on child neglect, wanton endangerment, all these charges. And then whenever they came and arrested me and took me to jail, the next day, part of my bond conditions were to cooperate with Children's Services. So I had a 6 month Children's Services case forced upon me. And at the end of it, where a lot of people don't know how to fight back, at the end of it, I was given a 30-day window to do an appeal with Frankfurt. So I did my appeal and I won my appeal. And that I ended up having to go have all that. They ended up dismissing the charges. Ned got them dismissed. But all of that for what? Because I let my son ride his bicycle down the holler. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But when we went in front of Judge Mullins, The people that were pushing this were planning on taking my kids, emergency removal hearings, all this stuff. When we went, and I knew Kevin, I knew he knew me. He was not going to remove my children out of my home. And when we went in front of him, he did exactly that. He did not remove my children. Now, he could have done exactly what those people wanted him to do, but he didn't. And he could have stopped it too. He could have stopped it in its tracks, but he didn't do that either. But he didn't let it continue. He didn't let it get worse on me. And I'll always be grateful to him for that. He saw through it. He knew it was wrong, and he didn't let it, go any further.
The COE is back, and I'm going to play that last bit of sound in a moment. But this is a great question. The sheriff is asking to be tried in Letcher County, which is unusual. Do we know why, Elizabeth? I mean,
Jury nullification.
Yeah, that's what I figured. By the way, earlier on, someone asked about Mickey's family. Have they spoken publicly since this has come out?
Mm-mm.
They haven't. They haven't said anything. Is it such a small area where have you crossed paths with the family at all?
I've not seen Caroline or Lila. I did see the judge's widow at the dollar store last week, but I didn't speak.
How did she look? How's she doing? Do we know? He has kids too, right?
Yeah, my heart breaks for his wife or widow. I don't even know what to say about that. What she's going through has got to be just unbelievably difficult.
To say the
there's
least.
a whole lot being said about the judge that I think that's where it goes back to what I said earlier. Where's the investigation? Like, this man is being put through the ringer and through the mud, and there's still not one piece of evidence that has come out. It's all just, rumor or this or that, but there's no evidence that's come out to say he's guilty of this or he's not guilty of that. I feel like that's being completely skipped over.
Are you talking about the judge now or the sheriff? The judge, correct?
Mm-hmm.
When you were talking a minute ago, I'm a little slow in the uptake. With the whole issue of drug money, what do you just clarify that for me? Like, do you think that the law enforcement was up to no good and siphoning money off of the drug money that they would confiscate? Is that what we were saying?
Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if you don't have, we just went through the Letcher County audit the other night on my show, and the audit that was done by the state, it was a scathing audit. What it basically said was that there's no checks and balances in place to even find a mistake, let alone have it fixed in a period of time, an appropriate period of time. So if you don't have very good, look at the house arrest logs that they had. It was just a little scribbled piece of paper that they put together. Like, they don't have any good practices and policies in place to stop any kind of waste, fraud, and abuse. We had an officer, Brian Dameron. He was the supervising officer. He was a supervising deputy. Well, he was arrested and sentenced for stealing evidence, stealing guns, and other stuff out of the evidence room at the sheriff's department. So there's already a history of that kind of thing. And, and so when you're looking at just the sheer amount of drugs, money, guns, property, all of this stuff that's being confiscated and going through all of these or a few hands in the sheriff's department, and you don't have any checks and balances in place to make sure that nothing's, no foul play is being done, I don't trust it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. From Sam here, and then I'm getting back to Raj in a sec. I watched the attorneys questioning 2 points that the daughter and judge use cell phone apps. Sheriff made reports on Judge Mullins. Is that coming out? What do we know about this, if anything?
The lawyer asked in that hearing, the lawyer asked the police officer who testified if they were aware of any apps on Judge's phone, I guess, and he didn't tell. The officer that testified, he really didn't know much of anything.
Oh, look at this. Edward Murphy, he should be writing headlines for the New York Post because he just gave us one. Lecherous County. I like the creativity. We've got Lynette Eads here. And Ned Smith, my bun is not happy. I missed the last show. Sorry to hear that, Ned. I thought you were there, but I can't keep track of anything. All right, let me play this last piece of sound and then a few more questions, and then I promise we'll wrap it up. I definitely would love to get Hillbilly Crime back on to update us on this story. It is hard to get information. The only way I'm going to this trial is if Elizabeth is sitting next to me and or Dr. Raj, because I'm stand out a little bit in Letcher County. But here's the video, Raj. Tell me if you think that this is some sort of drug-induced psychosis. This is the trip, which was roughly an hour for Sheriff Steins to the jail that they took him to after the crime. And is there audio? What is this?
Now, guys, I was asking why you done it. Was it over your family? Come on now, guys. What are you doing? I was just talking to you. I'm just asking, was it something to do with your family or anything like that?
The trooper, after several minutes, tries to ask Steins some more questions.
Was it something to do with your family? Something happened. Because if something did happen, you know, I mean, it'd be good to let us know. Why did you want to talk to your daughter a while ago, Nick? If something did happen that, you know, something that could help you when you go to trial and get a fair trial. Letting us know kind of what's going on, what led.
So there you go. I mean, Raj, there you've got the deputy who's really pressing him, trying to get a motive for why it happened. But what do you make of his behavior?
Okay, here's even bigger. It reminded me of Murdock. Okay, people questioning Murdock after the murder of his wife and child. Okay, let's not act like this guy doesn't know every letter and verse of how things are done. Okay, and you're not paranoid if somebody's actually filming you, and you know it. That's not paranoia. That would be awareness. But this whole case, the thing that has shifted me in listening to this whole broadcast is follow the money. Follow the money. I think there's where we're going to find what may be the real truth. Okay, is it possible to create paranoia through drug-induced paranoia? Yeah. But does that fit in really with this guy? Not any more than us saying, well, Murdock was drugged. No, come on. No, he was aware. This guy was aware. He's part of that community. He's liked by that community. I guarantee it. The more I've listened to this show, what goes into my head is money, 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 money. I believe that is going to be at the core. If you want to know anything about what's going on in that area, is follow where's the money. Who's got the money? Where's the money coming to? Who benefits? All that, I think, is going to give us a clearer picture of quote unquote reality than us wondering why, what, where, huh? Okay.
Yeah. I'm starting to think that the daughter is more of a red herring, if you will. And
Yes.
What Roger is saying, follow the money. I mean, we have Detective Phil Waters. He's investigated over 400 homicides with a crazy, crazy high clearance rate. And he says it's always drugs, sex, or money, or some version of that. So
all of that was there. All of that is there in that county.
All of it.
Sex, power, money.
Raj, Hillbilly, Raj used the phrase social incest earlier on in the show. Are you surprised with such a tight, close-knit community? And then I'm going to get to Super Planner Girl's question, but that we don't know the real why yet? I mean, I'm amazed by that.
Well, nepotism is a big issue. I mean, why couldn't I get a job with a master's degree and all the accolades that I had put together, in a 10-year period of time?
Let me help you. You didn't bend the knee.
That's right.
That's why you didn't. You could have had a PhD in whatever, but you weren't related to the right people. You didn't grease the right palms, and you didn't kneel to the power. That's why you didn't get it.
Yeah.
Well, every time I presented myself as an advocate for change. That didn't go over too well.
Hillbilly, what is your cat's name? Most importantly, we are a pet-friendly show here. Your cat.
This is Bear.
Bear.
Oh, love Bear.
There you go.
He's a little black bear.
Yeah. If I was around him, my eyes would be tearing. I'm allergic to cats, but I do love all animals. Super Planner Girl, to you, Hillbilly, a couple more questions, and then we're going to wrap it. But how has this changed the fabric of your small town? Or do you see it changing after the trial? I mean, and I'll add, what has been the reaction to you reporting on this?
Well, surprisingly, I've only had like 3 bad comments on my whole YouTube channel.
God bless you. I wish I could say the same, but I can't.
The reaction's been pretty good. I was a little scared at first, to be honest with you, but I see the side eyes sometimes at the grocery store, but for the most part, it's been very positive.
I mean, is everyone talking about this? I see even more people in the chat who seem to know you. Melissa here, and I'll get back to that in a second, but has Mickey's wife or daughter, do we know, have they visited him in jail? Does anyone know that? Have we gotten jail like logs?
Not yet. I'm trying, but I haven't gotten them yet. They have been at every one of his court hearings. They sit right behind him. But we don't know yet about jail. One thing I would like to point out in that in the videos, the body cam and the dash cam footage that we have of him going to the jail, if you notice, he is aware enough to never say anything that would hurt him. Everything that he says could be a mitigating thing towards mental health, but he is not. He is aware enough not to say anything that will hurt him.
Yeah.
He performed well,
and I thought the reaction from the other police officers were just as telling. Like, and to me, if this would have happened, I'd have been like, "My God, Mickey, what'd you do? I've just been, I've been
line, man."
Yeah. And none of the police officers that we have seen, their reaction in these body cams even seems shocked or surprised or anything. And the narrative that the police officers keep pushing with that same question in that car ride. Did this have something to do with your family, Mickey? Mickey never says that. That is said repeatedly by the officers.
That's a very good point. That's interesting. Elizabeth is a rock star investigator. I was asking you, I mean, is the whole county talking about this? I mean, is no? What? So what's the real? I mean, what's happening there?
People are not talking about it publicly. Everybody's got a private opinion, but nobody that I know really wants to speak about this openly because of fear. Now, my situation is a little bit different. You know, if you don't have anything, you ain't got nothing to lose, right? But nobody in these powerful positions, they don't own my home, so I don't pay rent to them. They don't employ me. They don't employ my mother. They don't employ anybody that I'm related to. They don't own the homes that anybody that I'm related to owns. I don't have any big friends in big powerful positions to, you know. So
they don't own you. Is really what you're saying. They don't own you.
I can speak out about it and not fear losing my home or losing my job. But a lot of other people don't have that same luxury.
The majority of people that you live around do not have that luxury.
No.
That's right. But you're in a place of where you're not owned. And when you aren't owned, you can have a personal opinion. But when people own you, you cannot afford to have a personal opinion. And you're rewarded for keeping your mouth shut.
Yes. And that's kind of the way that everybody expects. You know, it's kind of expected that everybody will keep their mouth shut.
Yeah,
you know, our Commonwealth attorney, who was just appointed Commonwealth attorney, Matt Butler, he is the brother-in-law to Judge Mullins. They married sisters. So, and so now, you know, there's social incest. Perfect. Perfect.
Hey, it's small town living in America is really what we're talking. It's not unique to Kentucky. It is unique to small town America. Follow the money. Somebody's pulling the string. It's a web. It's not a single moment. It's a web of many things being pulled on to make a particular narrative play. And that's what we have to watch and see. What's the narrative?
Yeah.
And this is generational. This is generational power here. You've got
that's families. Like the Murdocks.
Yeah, there you go. There's Murdock.
Perfect example.
Perfect. Same crowd.
Yeah, I mean, Elizabeth, one of the other questions is who was he? Why was he checking the phone? Do you have a thought on that?
I don't. Honestly, I don't know if that whole part of it is a red herring or not. You know, the phones all had to do with the daughter, with calling his daughter. So,
so I mean,
that confuses before.
I mean, that confuses me. So now the daughter comes back into it. What do you think is?
Well, remember they had that incident at lunch that day where Mickey started to say something and the judge stopped him and said, "Do we need to talk about this in my chambers later?" And so Mickey stopped at the lunch. And then later on, apparently there was some text messages between Mickey and a female employee at the sheriff's department. And she turned in her phone to the investigators because of that text transaction between him and her happened right before he went into the judge's chambers. So I think there's a whole lot. Listen, you can't walk out of the courtroom. You can't have court, walk out of that courthouse, and by the time you walk into another office down there on Main Street, everybody already knows what happened in the courtroom. You have a lot of backstabbing situations that go on with that, rumor mills,
That's small town wherever. They not only want to know when you go to the bathroom, they want to know what you did when you were in there. That's
when I left my very first court hearing on that situation that I went through before I had hired Ned, I walked out of the courtroom and walked into a lawyer's office to try and hire him. And his secretaries laughed me out of there. Like before I even got down to the bottom of the stairs, I could hear him upstairs. I can't believe she'd even show her face over here. I can't believe she'd walk over here. So, I mean, it's a rough place to be down there in Whitesburg if you ain't in the circle, honey.
How big is Whitesburg itself? Like, how many people live there?
I'm not sure. Tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's not a lot, I don't think. I mean, this has been absolutely fascinating. Roger Rhodes, Dr. Roger Rhodes, to me, he is a therapist in private practice. Every once in a while, I'll call him leave a crazy voice message. He also works at times with inmates who are on the other side of those bars. Ned Smith says, I'm not going to say this word because I'm puritanical, but these are sworn to uphold the law and they do this crap.
Yes,
it happens. I mean, Raj, your final thoughts. By the way, if you like the show, please please subscribe. We have a Patreon page where we put in docs, behind the scenes stuff. Before I get to Raj, Elizabeth, I didn't know this. I saw a comment that your mother's on the show with you, which is interesting because my mother is my co-host. What does your mother think? They're always right.
What does she think? What?
And what does she think is going on here? She's got to have a theory. She's got to have a theory.
She thinks basically like I do. It's about the money. I tell you something that we found out the other night. We've heard stories about some SMEX parties. I call it. I say, listen, I try not to say the real words because they demonetize my videos, and so I've gotten in a bad habit. But we've heard about a lot of SMEX parties in the past, and apparently my mom has been to some of them big skinny dipping parties up on the mountain at the Pink Flamingo.
Go mom.
She wasn't skinny dipping, but she was there.
Wow.
Let's be honest, half the town was there at the skinny dipping. That's how it went.
Fonda Horsley here. Population of Whitesburg is 1,658 people. I grew up in a town of 30,000, which was very small, so I cannot imagine this. Someone wants to know I feel like I talked to these guys all night. Who's the largest employer in Letcher County? Is it, do you know, is it it's usually like a hospital or
That's what I was getting ready to say. I'd say it's either ARH Hospital or MCHC.
Well, listen, anyway, he is my friend, Roger Rhodes. The guy has got a brilliant insight. My dad would have loved to listen to Roger because my dad is very much of the same mindset. Look at this. The population just increased to 2,027, according to Little Biddle. Dr. Rhodes, I'm leaving it wide open. Your final thoughts here. By the way, she brought it up, not me. Aria Dakota Grimaldi Lane, who is in the UK recovering from a health issue. Hope you're feeling better. I do have a book, Surviving the Survivor, which is my mom's story, like 15%, 85% her yelling at me. And I am working on I decided I'm going to include Carm in the second book. It's going to be about my dad. My dad had really interesting life advice. So it was going to be a brutally honest conversation with my mother about my father. So talking about social incest, I don't know what you call that, but it'll be interesting because Carm will be very opinionated. But Dr. Raj, wide open. The floor is yours. Feel free to.
This has been, it's wide open, Joel. So I'm going to say what I think.
Please do.
Like I never do that. This has been an awesome show about small town America, power and control, and the manipulation of the legal system.
Amen.
And it's not conditioned to Kentucky. If anybody's listening, that's hooey. It is America. This has been a great cross section of abuse with drugs, money, and sex involved.
Yeah. By the way, and it all goes back. I mean, people were riveted by the Murdock trial again, not to beat a dead horse, but that was small town.
Yes.
South Carolina, same thing. All those elements.
And wait a minute, the Murdaughs had influence, and what's a big thing in here? Influence.
Yep.
And that everybody knew them. Everybody knows this crowd. Very similar. Very similar.
Yeah. Tracy McClellan, with Letcher County being a low economic poor county, don't you think that it's odd that Mickey's salary, which I did not know this, was a bit higher? Are you aware of this, that his salary is higher than most of the other sheriffs in the state?
At his very first court hearing, the judge asked him about his finances, and he said that he made $115,000 this year. That is just astronomical compared to what people make around here.
What is an average salary? I mean, you probably don't know the exact number, but if you had to guess, what do you think the average salary is in Whitesburg?
Well, I can tell you, I've worked as a substance abuse counselor. I've been a case manager. The most you're going to make it, that salary is pretty much straight across the board. It's $30,000 a year. For those kinds of jobs, even with a master's degree. For me, it was $30,000 a year. I can't support me and my kids on that, you know. And you have a whole lot of people here that they don't have any skills. Used to, it was the coal mines. The coal mines employed everybody as long as you graduated high school or had a GED. If you knew somebody, they would get you on at the mines. Now all those coal mines are gone. So you have, I wish we had more skilled labor opportunities here for people, but people cut grass. They cut grass. They get them a few regulars that they work for. My mom is a college professor. She's taught math at the local community college for like the last 40 years. So everybody that has went to Southeast has had my mom for math. And so she's pretty well known around here too.
I wonder if her students know she was at the skinny dipping party.
Probably.
Yeah. Dr. Raj, look at this from Blackwador, the Republic of Ireland. Dr. Raj is mine. Pause off. They're fighting over you.
There we go, buddy. Hey, but the one thing we see in this show is Raj knows small town. I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma called Wewoka, Oklahoma.
How do you spell Wewoka?
Wewoka. Wewoka.
Just like it sounds.
We woke you up. We woke you up.
Yeah, buddy. Hey, get her done. We understand that act very well.
By the way, Ned Smith, Joel has on some silly baseball t-shirt. Just so you know, I am dad of the year. I did take my 5-year-old to his t-ball game, and in the spirit of baseball, I'm wearing my World Series sweatshirt. I just want you to know that my son at 5 years old prevented a home run from being hit today by backhanding a ball that was zipped his way. He got on base. And I don't want to brag, but he is the fastest kid on his team. And soon he will be.
Pride is not a bad thing for a father.
Yeah. Soon he'll be in the major leagues or he will be disowned. So there you go. Either make the Yankees or don't come home. Prissy Pants says that Netflix is already circling overhead. Listen, I can't thank Elizabeth Jones enough. She is the host of Hillbilly Crime on YouTube. Please subscribe. And you know, I saw people saying that they're happy that we are here. I love collaborating with other content creators. I was in the broadcast news business, which is so competitive, and Steve Cohen always says a rising tide lifts all ships. I'm excited that she's on this story. Elizabeth, I hope you come back and update us.
Absolutely.
Where do we stand in terms of a next court date, a potential trial, and your final thoughts?
I think that they said the trial is set for like September, but of course I'd say that'll probably be pushed off. The last that I saw, the prosecuting attorney, he gave an interview, and I got the impression that they were looking seriously at mental health stuff with Mickey. I don't get the impression that they're going to be pressing this and pushing this. If this goes to trial, it'll surprise me. I think they're going to look to try and make a deal with it. But that's just what I think. Could be wrong.
It's I'll tell you what. By the way, did they have cameras in the courtroom? I know they did for so they do. Because I know they did for for this case. Oh, interesting. Look at this. By the time we get off the air, your town is going to have a population of New York City or Mexico City. The population is now 3,084. And then, of course, people have to give me a hard time saying that my son got the COE's genes. Your son is just like his mother. I just want you to know, and I'm not bragging here, but I was a 3-time all-state tennis player in high school, first team all-county. And I still, to this, I've never revealed this on this show. I still hold, me and Billy Bloom, he was my doubles partner. Shout out to Billy. He and I hold the all-time wins record at Highland Park High School, 96 wins over 4 years. It's a record that will never be broken. I am in the Hall of Fame, and I got there in the years 83 through 87, and I still live on in those hallways. So I will not only brag about my son, but lest you think I have no athletic ability, you're incorrect. I could not hit a tennis ball in the court right now. If you paid me, I'd be sailing it over the fence. ATA, I never know how to pronounce this. Love hearing from multiple channels all at once. Thanks to all y'all. I feel like you didn't get your final goodbye here. So, Elizabeth, your final thoughts before we say goodbye.
Well, just thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I think that this case is going to break open a whole lot of worms, and I'm kind of excited to see it.
I think you've got a spotlight on your town, and the cockroaches are going to run.
There you go.
See?
Yeah, we're going to get Elizabeth back on for sure. Look at Peach Bum. Don't brag, Joel. Hold on. Stop the presses. Proud of you, Joel. Get over yourself, Joel. I'm going to get hate. Now that I announced this, I'm going to get hate mail. Like, you're a loser. I'm watching this podcast. I couldn't care less. Joel, you never refuse the bait. It goes on. If I don't get enough here, I just go home. And if you're so awesome, this is COE. What's going on here? Why does Ned not get notices of the show? I would say stuff about YouTube, but I'm on YouTube, so I'm not going to say it. But we better be seen, and I feel like we're not. And COE, Ned, I was feeling so good and calm, and you just completely ruined the mood. I'm very upset. All right, so listen, this is a story with no ending, but a lot of curiosity. You just heard Dr. Raj and Elizabeth say that now we need to follow the money. Bella says Dr. Raj is so cool. Ned Smith, love you, Joel, even though you just ruined my night. Look at this. CJ, I played tennis, NCAA tennis for 4 years. I'm curious where. Phantom 6000, who's here, he played collegiate tennis. And trust me, I could not have played tennis at the school where your mom teaches, Elizabeth. I was not that good. So it's a full circle moment. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. Love you, America. Love you, South Carolina. Love you, Letcher County, Kentucky. This is perhaps most important. Dr. Bullbutter. Joel, never forget that Jersey rocks. Patty Girl. I'm not gonna comment on the Yankees not being good. Who has the most world champions of any team in any sport? Look it up. There you go. Everyone seems to love Elizabeth. I can't stop talking. I'm obsessed with this case. Elizabeth, I'm going to reach out to you and make sure that we stay in close touch. Dr. Roger Rhodes, I'll be leaving you some more crazy messages.
Right. Yeah,
oh, by the way, yeah, tomorrow night, we're doing a story that Raj would have a field day with. These 3 brothers in Miami who rose to the upper echelons of the real estate business. They are now accused of the R word, essaying women. More than 40 women have come forward. They want a bond hearing. They're getting it tomorrow. But guess what? The Southern District of New York came out and said, we've got video of them doing this to women, a lot of video, and they should not be let out. So I think it's game over for them. We're doing a show on this with some very savvy New York City criminal attorneys tomorrow night. Thursday, we got Josh Ritter. There's a case going on with a guy named David Pierce out in L.A. who's accused of dumping 2 women who were overdosing on drugs, speaking of drugs, in Los Angeles, leaving them to die. He's on trial for murder. Josh Ritter is professionally involved as a lawyer in that case. He's going to give us the inside scoop. And then Friday, we're back with Phil and Scott. Love you, America. I'm going to go drink some hot tea, I think, and appreciate you all being here. Elizabeth, hang on one sec along with Dr. Raj.